For our audience here, for my larger audience, can you please share what the field of transpersonal psychology is and how it's unique?
Absolutely. Transpersonal psychology, I can define it in like four kind of different criteria. And I want to do this in a way that is succinct, that the audience can receive this well. So, first, best textbook definition that I could give: transpersonal psychology is the cultivation and study of whole human transformation. The whole piece of it, holistic piece of it, is very important. The assets of that whole person are body, mind, soul. So again, the cultivation and study of whole human transformation, the investments or the assets of the whole being are body, mind, soul, somatic, psychological, spiritual. The somatic, the body, the physical investment, the therapies that are in this realm, psychologically, mentally, the ways that we are using and operating our minds in the mental space, and then spiritually, our higher potentialities and what we can offer the world and operate with spirit operating through us. And sometimes these words can be a little bit distant, maybe not for your audience, but certain people could feel like, well, I'm becoming disconnected when I hear these words of spiritual. But to ground that in a more practical application, it's higher potentiality. It's the edges of what we are capable of. And that's a good grounded way of doing that. So, textbook definition: the etiology, like I said, I like the etiology of words, is the psychology is the study of the soul. Now, psychology over time has become a psychology of ego. It's become a study of ego and behaviorism. And that has its own problems. There's a lot of cons. There are some pros. There's some beautiful benefit that people are able to utilize through this behaviorist approach, but it's very material focused. It's the conventional approach of our modern era of mental health. But that is what psychology has become. What it was initially is the study of the soul. And then transpersonal is to transcend, to move beyond the personal. And the personal is the egoic experience, the egoic mind, sometimes the mediocre in a way, into the extraordinary. So, how is the soul, the study of the soul, transforming the ego? That etymology is so valuable. The study of the soul transforming the ego. In another way, thematically, it's a study of higher potentialities. Abraham Maslow, one of the fathers of transpersonal psychology, there's three of them. Anthony Sudich, who's so important to name, that doesn't get named often. Abraham Maslow, and then Stanislav Grof. Stanislav Grof's still alive today. We are blessed to have him still. Abraham Maslow, he wrote a famous book called The Farthest Reaches of Human Nature. If you really want to know the ethos of transpersonal psychology, that is a great book to read and to understand the approach of looking at the higher actualized forms of being in the world, and how is that operating in such a way that informs how we are dealing with mental health and just raising the bar for all human beings. And then it also can be described with this Western science. So everything that we do know, there are cons in behaviorism, and we recognize that in sort of the philosophy and perspective. There's some narrowness in this kind of perspective, but there is still a lot of value, and we don't discredit the value of Western science and all the sciences. And this is a science as well. It's not a conventional science. The approach is different, just like Teilhard's history of being very unconventional in his religious scientific approach, but it's Western science integrated with the Eastern philosophy, the Eastern wisdom. So Western science and the Eastern wisdom. But we have grown to understand, and it kind of has this yin yang picture, because we have grown to understand the Eastern wisdom as not only the locality, the physical East, but also indigenous tradition. So it becomes like indigenous wisdom. It becomes like the foundation of societal wisdom and growth and foundation and community. These things are held sacred and honored and paid attention to, attended to in a way that honors our ancestry and things like this. So it's combining these things, so very wide in scope, aiming to find where are our blinders and how can we attend to those blinders in such a way that helps all of us. So maybe four different kind of definitions and ways of looking at transpersonal psychology. And if people can listen to that or play it back, I don't know if it's a lot of information for you, but if you could play that back, that is what the essence, the ethos, that is what transpersonal psychology is.
Well, that's a very holistic definition that you give. And it's very, in my mind, complete in the Jungian sense because you give four different definitions, and that is the quaternity within Jungian psychoanalysis and how that is a symbolism of wholeness in some way, right? So I really appreciate that definition and how you gave it. So, Travis, how did your journey direct you toward transpersonal psychology? What inspired you to pursue this field?
Yeah, so this would just require a little bit of my backstory. I was born and raised in Council Bluffs, Iowa. About age 21, I realized because I had several instances of being incarcerated. So I had gone in and out of jail. I was a troubled youth. My mother is deaf. And so identified as a coda as a result of that. So coda is a child of a deaf adult, CODA. There's a great movie called Coda. You can check it out. Coda. And my father passed away when I was very young. My father passed away when I was 16 months old. So he was 25 years old. I am now older than my father ever was in life. And growing up, it was a sometimes failed attempt to raise myself, to figure things out through error, through like lots of error, like almost only error in a way. But I had a tenacity. I would always keep getting back up. But I realized that around 21, I realized if I don't make a significant gravitational pull away from I need to create a new gravity center for myself, and the only way to pull out of the gravity of my repetition compulsion, I took that from a psychology 101 course about Sigmund Freud. The only way to pull myself out of that repetition compulsion, that cyclical thing that I kept finding myself in, I needed to make a significant enough change. And I think that that's what others can get some wisdom from, that is we find ourselves often in these cyclical patterns in our lives. In order to really get to make change in our lives, in order to really do that, sometimes the change in our lives has to be significant enough. So I needed to move as far away as possible from this place. Otherwise, I was going to find myself in and out of jail for the rest of my life. I could see it. It was pretty clear as day. Eventually, it became very clear as day. I'm going to be in and out of jail for the rest of my life if I don't move away from here. And so I had just completed my associate's degree at a community college. So I was always educationally oriented. I always wanted to expand my mind and learn, and I had a love for learning always. And I was interested in how a person can go from one way of being in the world and just absolutely transformed to another way of being in the world in a moment. Just like one single moment can have such a significant effect on you, and how could that be intentional as well, maybe? So I was interested initially in a psychedelic medicine, psychedelic experience, how that has this profound transformation in people's lives from one moment to the next. My ideas of that have greatly matured since 21 at that time. And so that was initially what I was interested in. So I found this organization called MAPS. It's the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies. There was an article published about how to get involved, and it identified this field of transpersonal psychology and a list of schools that were potential schools that have programs in this. And I saw that list and I found Sophia University. And this was the first year that Sophia University had been that. Previous to that, it was the Institute of Transpersonal Psychology. And it was as far away as I could find myself in California. And I had wanted to go to California, never been. I was born and raised, never went on any extended vacations anywhere from that place. I had never even at that time been on an airplane. So I was very minimally traveled and just always around people that I knew. So I needed to make this big change. And so I was very inspired about this field of transpersonal psychology. And I recognized that if I wanted to be a psychologist, there's maybe more to that backstory, but if I wanted to be a psychologist, I needed to narrow my focus in a way. And this exceptional human experiences, which is what my interest in psychedelics and the way that I described it there, that's really what the interest is. Exceptional human experiences and how that can transform somebody. So it doesn't require a psychedelic medicine. It doesn't, but it maybe it's just what experiences can have such a profound change in a person. And so I moved to California on very little money. I took the train. It took 2 days. There's lots of details to that are fun to share. But I found myself in the most expensive place in the world in the Bay Area. And I told myself if I could make it here, I could make it anywhere. It was very hard in the beginning. I had 3 jobs at one time and was going to school full time, and I just made it happen. And I'm still here and just feeling great about my position in the field. That's how it began for me. If you enjoyed that clip, there are many more great conversations happening on the Gray Transforms podcast and this channel with thought leaders and professionals in the field of transpersonal psychology. Together, we are moving humanity forward. So comment, like, share, subscribe, and integrate. This is entertainment education to integrate, elevate, and actualize. We do this together. So check out this playlist or this video, and I'll see you next time.
Who is this man talking to you? I'm talking